It's James Pratt here. I just got back from our trip to Guatemala for an assignment to photograph electrical linemen as they provided power to rural villages in Guatemala and very, very remote places in Guatemala. So today I'm going to talk about what gear I took and then what gear I actually used versus what gear I really didn't use at all or very little, and how I would do things again different next time I go. And so to start with, I went and my assignment was to follow these linemen around as they brought power to very remote, wired up very remote homes. And I didn't know much about exactly what we were doing. I mean, I kind of knew that, but I didn't know the terrain or things. I knew it rained a lot. And so I took since this was my first time doing that assignment, I took a little bit extra gear that I ended up not using. And so, and then stuff I used a lot. And so I wanted to cover that. And so let's start with the things that I did use quite a bit and I was very glad I had. One was my drone. I used that. It was a very, very good choice. I got the DJI Mini Pro 3, which had the Mini Pro 4, but it came out after I ordered this. And so I used the heck out of this. This was a really, really handy tool. I didn't do a lot of photos, but I did do video. So I was shooting video and photos, both kind of a one-man assignment. And the drone was just really, really handy. So that was a good deal. I took some extra blades and things like that, but yeah, that was excellent. I took that one extra battery, got me through the day pretty well. The other thing I took my Nikon Z9. I was not sure that I should take the Z9 since it's so big and heavy, but I was really glad I did. It's a workhorse, and we had a lot of rainy conditions. I mean, a lot of rain. It rained every single day, just about. And not just tons of rain, but just steady rain all day. Muddy, really difficult conditions. And the Z9 is just a workhorse, and it's a joy to shoot, and it works fantastic. It's fairly weather sealed. And so, yeah, this was a good choice. I pretty well left it with the I bought a new 24-70 Z lens. I was very glad I had it. It worked flawlessly, and I pretty well left this on the camera almost all the time. This was a good choice. Even though it's heavy, we had to climb a lot of really steep mountains and slick, muddy conditions, very difficult terrain. And so it's a heavy. I wish I'd had a little bit lighter, but it was a workhorse. And so I was glad to haul it around despite the weight. It was just a really good camera. That's why it's a pro camera, top of the line Nikon. It's well worth taking it. The other camera I was really glad I took is this ZF. And if I only had one camera to take, it would most definitely be the ZF. It is such a versatile camera. Not quite as versatile as the Z9, but it's close. Autofocus is good. It's small, light, fairly lightweight. And I took this pretty well everywhere I went. So if we went to dinner, if we went to get gas, if I ran into town to get supplies, we would take this through the airport. And so I'd just keep this mostly with a 24-7, with my either a 24 millimeter or the 40 millimeter, the little small lenses that come with it. I would take this and and occasionally one time we had a really hard hike way up in the mountains. It's really a challenging environment. And so I ended up taking my 24-70 off the Z9 and stuck on here just to save some weight, and that worked fantastic. Left the Z9 in the truck. But for the most part, yeah, I had this camera, and then when I got to where we were going, I would switch over to the Z9. But yeah, I would highly, if I only had one camera to take with me, the ZF would be the ticket. I also took my Nikon, I had it, it's older, and I took the Z6, mostly for video. And I used it a little bit, but I could have left this one at home. I could have done just fine with the Z9. It's nice not to have to switch. And I had my gimbal all balanced for this camera, ready to go. And so I use it occasionally, but I could have easily done without the Z6. And I only use it for video, but I could have done without it. I pretty well left the 40 f2 or the 28 f2.8 on there, those lenses. And the nice thing, they're pretty well the same weight, so when I put them on my gimbal, it balanced just fine. And so that I could have got, like I said, I could have done without it, but it was nice to have. The other camera I was really surprised, I'm going through cameras now, is this. I took the Coolpix, the W300, and my thought was I'd take it for maybe some underwater pictures. I thought we were going to be close to the beach, which we weren't. It was very wet conditions. I ended up not using it for anything I thought I would, but what I did do is we had kids around us all the time. These Guatemalan kids were just all just like flies. They were everywhere. We'd pass out candy and they'd follow us and help us and hand us hammers, things like that. So what I got to do, and I took the strap up, and I would, after about 20, 30 minutes at a place, I would pick a kid that seemed to be fairly interested, often a girl, but whoever it might be, and I would just take this camera and, of course, we didn't speak the same language. I didn't speak Spanish, so I'd hand it to them, and some of them quite a few people spoke Kaqchi, which is not Spanish and it's not English, and so they couldn't understand anything. And so, but I would give them the camera, show them how to use it, show them how to take pictures. Then they would just follow me around the entire time. They were like a rock star in the village, and they would take cameras and take pictures. And they would soften up some of the other ladies. The women were very reluctant to have their picture taken. All the women were up there. And by giving a little girl a camera, letting her take pictures of them, they might get some decent pictures, but they would soften them up a little bit they'd allow me to take pictures also of them. And so this was a real big hit. I was really glad I had it. I almost left it home, but really good choice. It really broke the ice with people. And I wasn't worried about, if I lost it, I wasn't too worried about it because it's a used camera. I've had it for a while. But I never even came close to losing it. The kids were so respectful. Their parents were so thankful to get the electricity. They made sure, one time I almost forgot it, and the little girl comes up to me and just, hand him the camera, make sure I didn't forget it. And so I never really had to worry too much about losing this camera. I was surprised. They were so thankful to have us there. And so that was a really big hit. I could take a camera that is waterproof, durable, dust-proof, bang-proof, and just let them have it and let them run around the village, around their home, and take pictures. And really, just a really good choice. So that's it for cameras. Let's talk a little bit about these are the ones I used. Lenses, I mostly use a 24-70. That was my workhorse. I used these primes, the 28 and the 40 on my Nikons. And those are most of what I use because I'm kind of a prime shooter. I'll talk about lenses. I took my 7200 and I thought I might use it some, and I did a little bit. I took it a few pictures, but not very many. And it's really, really heavy and big and bulky. And if I was doing this again, I would not take this lens. I'm not shooting wildlife. I can shoot flowers, things. I shot pigs and turkeys and chickens and things like that are kind of around their homes. And again, my assignment's not wildlife. It's to shoot people, to photograph people, and the linemen doing the work. And so next time I go, leaving the 7200 at home. Even though I love this lens, it's just too big and bulky. I also took my 1635 wide angle lens. I thought I would use that. I never used it a single time. It was just not convenient. I would pack it up there. I'd had it in my backpack and we'd go up in those mountains, but I just never used it. Never really had a need. I didn't need the wide angle. We were plenty wide enough with the 24-70. And so this lens never touched my camera the entire time. So that won't be going. Great lens, but it just didn't need it. Didn't have a need for it. So that was pretty well. Oh, the lens I will take instead of the next time, I took it, but I didn't use it because I had this one. But the next time I go, I'm going to take, I will most definitely take this small manual focus, I think it's a 135. Yeah, the 135 manual focus on the FTZ adapter, because that would give me some longer length without a lot of weight. And it is a manual focus, but with the Z series camera, manual focus is really no big deal at all. And then to finish up on lens, what I took, but I didn't use a teleconverter. Obviously didn't need it because I didn't even use that one much. And I took some macro extension tubes. I thought I might do a little macro work, but I never really had a need. The 24-70 focused plenty close enough. I got several flowers and I got some things like that, some of the plants. And so I didn't really need macro tubes, so I wouldn't take those again. And then let's see, so that's it for cameras I use. The other thing I took and I didn't use at all, not a single time, was lighting. I took my really small flash point lights. They're tiny. They didn't take up a lot of room, but they did take up some room. And I never used them a single time. So I've got the two lights. I got the trigger that goes in the camera. I got these little mini tripods with this extension tube, so I can get some light stands. I thought, and I brought these 2 umbrellas, and I thought I would use it, and of course, I'm sorry, the modifier kits. So that took up a little bit of room. It never left my hotel room. Part of the reason is the light we were shooting in was just stunning. It was overcast and rainy the entire time, or not all the entire time, but most of the time. We were in these small homes and villages. The light filtering in through the trees was just natural daylight. The filtering in from windows was fantastic. The linemen all would use lights on their helmets so they could see what they were doing, and that just gave me some really nice looks inside the homes. And so I really had no need for these at all. I would not take any lighting at all. Maybe a flash. If I was taking lighting, I will. When I take next time, I'll just take a nice LED daylight balance flashlight, because I could use a flashlight for other things and use it for light with my subject. Maybe get one that has some modifiers I could put on it and just have a kid hold it for me. So yeah, I would not take any lighting, didn't use it at all. The other thing I took that I used a little bit, but not much, was my DJI gimbal. I had it balanced for my Z6, and I used it for the first day or 2, but then I figured out pretty quick, it's big and bulky, it's hard to carry in my backpack up these giant daggum mountains that were slick and rough and really difficult terrain. And I figured out that it really didn't buy me a lot. I did take my tripod, I'll cover that in a minute. So I'd either shoot video from tripod, or I would just try to be still and handhold. You know, you're in these really rugged places, there's mud everywhere, there's mosquitoes, there's rain, and you're in just very primitive conditions. And so, you know, if you got a little bit of shaky video, it's just, in my opinion, that's just tough. I mean, I'm sorry. I try to keep it as smooth as possible. And I did quite a few video shoots just by being real steady with my camera, moving real slow, and did not use this. And so it ended up turning out great. I would not take this again. I really like using this gimbal from DJI, but it's just too big and too bulky. It's not something I really would take next time. The other thing I took was audio gear. So that audio gear was really important to have good audio. And so I knew that going in because I've shot a lot of video, and so I needed good audio gear. And so I took what I thought I needed. First off, I took these, which I really like. I like these little portable recorders from Zoom. But the problem is they don't sync up they just store the audio locally, and they don't send it to my camera. And I was so busy every day trying to, I had zero time to myself. I had to send out every evening when we came back. We'd typically go to breakfast at 6:30. We'd be on the road by 7:15. We worked all day. We'd get in at night, and I'd have to back up all my stuff, edit my images somewhat, and get them do my selects and start transmitting things. We had kind of spotty Wi-Fi a lot of times, so transmitting took a while, and I had to retransmit some stuff. And I would not have had any time to sync up the audio to the audio in my camera. And my editors, they were wanting fast turnaround time, especially on the video. And so they never would have taken the time to sync these audio files up. And so they really, I like these for work around here when I have multiple audio sources, but they did not work. I didn't use them at all. It was just not worth it. I ended up using, I had these old Sennheisers I've had for probably a decade. They're just wireless Sennheisers and wireless transmitters. And so I'd put one of those on my camera, and if I need to do an interview or something, I'd just stick the one with the lav mic on my subject. That way I could isolate out audio and cut off some of the background noise, and just use those. That way my audio was already on my video, it was already synced up, everything was ready to go, and I could just download the download the video. It already had the audio with it, transmit it to my editors, and they could work with it then, and we'd have decent audio. So what I might end up getting next, and I like these Sennheisers because they're very reliable, but they don't store anything local. And I was monitoring, so as I shot video, I just used my earbuds to monitor with, which is way better than carrying a headphone around. These work perfect. They were plenty good enough. Very lightweight, packed down very small. And so if I was, and so I could monitor audio, make sure I got good audio. But it'd be nice, those new, I think, I can't remember who makes them, but maybe the Rode Wireless Pros, they have 32-bit float they store locally, and they transmit it to the camera. So you have the best of both worlds. You got nice 32-bit float recording, but you also can get stuff stored on your camera so you can send those video files quickly. And so these Sennheisers work great, no complaints, no issue, but they don't store locally. And so, you know, if I was doing it again, I may end up buying a couple of those. I like these as well, but I may end up buying a couple of those, or at least a set of those wireless pros. So that's, I did, and then audio, I brought a mic with my Sennheisers because I already had it. And I brought that, I did use it. It's kind of handy when you're interviewing somebody and you have like if I have most of my interviews were just, I would prompt them ahead of time and they would just talk to the camera, but a couple of times I would have somebody doing the interviews. And so that's handy when they have this and the host can talk and then hand the microphone back and forth. And that was pretty handy. And then I might take it the second time. I don't know, it's not too big, but we didn't use it as much as I thought. I used it a little bit, but not as much as I thought. So that's still up in the air on that one. So that covers this stuff. Those are the things I didn't take. The things I did find very handy. These are non-video stuff or picture photo cameras. These multiple SanDisk SSD hard drives. Most definitely, I mean, if you're out on these assignments, you have got to make backups and multiple backups of your images. And I ended up taking 4 of these. I had plenty of storage, or 2 terabytes each. But every night, once I get done with my edits, and I would copy backups to all these and I'd distribute them out to other people. So I'd stick them in a couple different trucks. I would keep one, I'd leave one at my hotel room. And that way I had 4 copies of all my images with different people in case, you know, something happened, and we'd have backup of everything. So those are handy, they're fast, they're real small, that worked fantastic. Of course, my drive to read my cards, I use that quite a bit, or every night really. Another important thing, I took a MacBook Pro, and which is, I like using the iPad. I took my iPad, my 11-inch iPad. I ended up not using it, I just didn't have time, and every single night I was on my computer backing up images, editing images, and I ended up just doing my work on my MacBook Pro, and next time I'll just leave the iPad. I mean, I love my iPad, but it's just not, I don't need 2 of them. And so the MacBook Pro worked fine. And I took this little flat folding Microsoft mouse, you flip it, it turns into a mouse you can work with. And it's so much handier than trying to work on that scroll pad. I mean, I can use that if I need to, but this is so much better. So I took that, really glad I had it. It worked out great. I left it out one night. It got rained, a monsoon rain out by the pool one night. I went back next day. I couldn't find it. I finally found it. I laid out by the pool. It had been soaked. And believe it or not, I had to change the batteries, but I've changed the batteries and it's worked ever since. So that was a good deal. The other thing I use, back to audio, I did use my Rode wireless several times. I actually use it quite regularly. You know, during interviews, I would like to mic the people up and do the interview. I get so much better audio that way. But sometimes I was doing some, you know, multiple people. I'd follow them around and I'd get some audio this way. So I used this Rode with the dead cat a fair amount, but it would pick up some background noise. So it wasn't ideal, but it worked. The other thing I used every single day, and I was really, really glad I took, was this outlet that gave me, what was it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 outlets in a really small package. I needed to take a power. I knew power was going to be an issue, getting enough outlets, because I had to charge a lot of cameras, a lot of gear every night, my laptop and everything else. And I knew some of the places we're staying were very remote. Luckily, they use the same outlets as the U.S., same cycles and everything. So I could just take this charger I already had. I'm not a charger, I'm sorry, outlet. And this worked fantastic. I'd plug it in at night, and I'd have charge my phone, charge my cameras, charge everything else I needed, my drone, all that stuff. I mean, it looked like a Rube Goldberg thing, but it worked fantastic, and it took up very little room in my case. So good way to handle some audio. The other thing was a lifesaver. It was my battery, portable battery. Man, that was really a lifesaver. I used that several times. I'd charge it at night, and then we'd be out there during the day, and I could charge stuff if I needed to, in the airport or traveling in the car, whatever it might be. Yeah, this was a good deal right here. This battery. Not wireless, this is the battery. The other thing I really put to use a lot, even more than I expected, was my tripod. I've had this tripod. It's a carbon fiber Manfrotto, I think it is. I believe. I can't remember who makes it. Anyway, I've had this carbon fiber tripod for a long time, but what I did for the trip, is I put this really cool little head. A friend of mine told me about it. It's a tiny little travel head, but it works great for both video and for still photography. So for video, I can rotate this handle out. You can see here, and extend it if I need to. Anyway, it'll extend out and give me the I get my normal pan tilt, things like that. I can turn it this way, but I can also depends on what camera I have. One camera would load this way and one camera would load this way, and so this top would pivot. If I can find it here, I think it's right here. So I could rotate this around if I needed to, whichever way I need to load my camera. And I could, of course, have a fluid head on it. So this was just a fantastic purchase, is this little tripod head from, I think it's Ulani, but I can't remember. Hit me up the notes and all that, I'll tell you. But yeah, that was a lifesaver. That was a really good deal. It fit. I could slide it in the side of my backpack. I carry it up on the mountain, shoot stills with it and video, mostly video. So this is a really good deal. Okay, so let me add on a couple of things I should have taken that I didn't take. The one is a better rain parka. I took a rain coat that I've had for a while, and everything had to be thin and lightweight. It was pretty warm there most of the time. It wasn't very cold. The weather was very moderate, but it rained a lot. We were in northern Guatemala and up in the mountains, and it just rained every day, pretty well every day. And so rain gear was good. I had it, so my parka, I'd carry my camera, and my raincoat zipped up the front. Well, I ended up having to run around with I have to hike my hand and hold it over my camera while I was trying to climb these mountains. And it'd be better just to have a throw over parka that I could just lay over the front of my camera and over my backpack. So next time I'll have more of just a parka than a rain jacket. So that was something I needed. The other thing I would take next time, they recommended we take long sleeve shirts because I was really worried about the mosquitoes. But there really was not that many mosquitoes. They were around. I got a few bites, but nothing like I expected. I took some deep woods off, but I didn't really need it. And during the day we were climbing, it got hot, or especially when we were climbing those really big rough terrain. Short sleeve shirt was just way better. I ended up taking these long sleeves and just roll them up because it was too hot. So next time I take a really thin, quick dry, I took a few of those, but didn't take enough of those thin, quick dry shirts, short sleeve shirts. So that's the two things I didn't take that I should have taken. Oh, one other thing I took that was very handy was my camp towel, because towels and things like that were somewhat short supply. They don't like to supply a lot of that stuff. The toiletries are pretty limited, so I brought my camp towel. It's just for backpacking, and that was very handy. I could clean lenses with it. I could dry myself off with it. I could do a lot of things. It packs down really small. So yeah, that's a really good thing to have. I was glad I took this. And that's about it. That's my trip to Guatemala. I hope to go in the future and do the same thing with the electrical lineman crew again. And this time I'll lose all this stuff, leave this behind, take a much smaller backpack and be much more portable. And I think that'll work out great.